Welcome back to another episode of the Health with Hashimoto's podcast. Today, I have an interview for you. I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest and my friend, Michelle McCoy. So, Michelle is a wife, mom, and fatigue expert. She is board certified holistic functional health coach, and she's host of the Treasured Wellness Christian podcast. If you love Jesus and if you are pursuing health, definitely go and subscribe to her podcast. I love it. So, Michelle helps exhausted women, exhausted Christian women in midlife break free from their daily fatigue and brain fog so they can feel energized and sharp again. She uses individualized, targeted support combined with renewed biblical mindset shifts, and she teaches women to treasure their temple in a way that fits their lifestyle for a life and legacy of wellness, which I love. So, God called Michelle to pursue holistic health when conventional medicine failed her sick daughter. Michelle, let's start there. Tell us about how things failed for you and then how you pivoted and what you're doing now.
Oh, so great to be here pouring into your audience, Esther, and helping them to find fatigue freedom. Yes. So thank you for having me. I do love talking about that, even though we have to go back 21 years ago. So I'll try to make this very brief. But our daughter was sick for 3 years before we finally got a diagnosis, and it was not from conventional medicine. We actually wasted a lot of years, time, medications, poking, prodding, exams, and they could not find the root cause of why she was having severe migraines, conditions like eczema, psoriasis, and her gut was a mess. And every time I said, food has got to have something to do with this, right? Because I'm tracking, I was doing an elimination diet before I knew what that was. And every time they would say, feed this girl whatever she wants. She doesn't feel good. Food has nothing to do with it. Well, Esther, food had everything to do with it.
Yeah.
Everything. And so the last straw, right? The last straw that broke this mama's back, right, was when I took her to another neurology appointment at the top neurology for children that our insurance would cover. We were seeing the best of the best, and they had no answers. And they said, perhaps something's going on at home she doesn't feel safe talking about. That was the last straw. I was like, I am done with conventional medicine. And I literally
Wow.
left the
Yeah.
state and found a holistic provider. She was an herbalist. And she took one look at my daughter and knew that she had a serious food allergy. So
Wow.
21 years ago, right? We know so much more now, but and we might get into this later, but that really fueled my fire for holistic nutrition, functional medicine, and incorporating and integrating how food is medicine, food is powerful. And oh, yes, we need to be our own best advocate for our health because um, we don't need to be wasting 3 years. We wasted 3 years. She was sick for 3 years, and no
Wow.
child, nobody should go through that. So that's what really
Oh.
got me started and fueled my fire.
Yeah. Well, and not only did they not find the answers, but they started blaming you, which I feel is just way too common. Like, oh,
Yes,
everything's fine. I don't see what the problem is, so clearly you're the problem. Like,
right.
how horrible and demeaning and just full of lies that is.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry that happened to you and your daughter. So you saw the holistic nutritionist, or you said it was nutritionist, right?
She was an herbalist.
Herbalist. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened next? Did she, like, how soon did your daughter have pain-free days?
So this was the amazing ability, just a visual and real life experience of how the body has the ability to heal and recover when we give it the proper tools and support. Absolutely. God designed our bodies to heal. And so it was within a month of the protocol that we did with her gut and removing foods, and gluten was a huge, that was like the it. She had a gluten allergy, and all of those things, and cleaned her up, um, detoxing, all of that. Within a month, she was already, like, skin was clearing. She was acting more like herself. She also had failure to thrive, which is very common in gluten intolerant children. And so she was very tiny. I mean, she's still very tiny. She's only 5 feet tall. I just curiously, I wonder. I mean, I'm not very tall, I'm 5'3", but I wonder if that stunted her a little bit because it was 3 years. But regardless, within 6 months, she was our little girl again. She looked healthy, whereas before she did not look healthy. And she had the dark circles under her eyes. She was very pale and had no energy. Straight A student, but she would come home and fall apart.
Yes. Yep. So I love that you recognize that the body is designed to heal. Like, yes, we have problems. Yes, when Adam and Eve sinned, one of the consequences was that there will be disease, there will be illness, there will be accidents, there will be death. Um, but we don't have to accept that as the original design. Our bodies are designed to heal. So the people who are listening, most of them have autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's, or they're listening for a friend or family member who does. So tell me like your perspective when things go wrong and autoimmune strikes. Like what's your perspective on that? And then we're going to talk about high functioning fatigue, which is so huge in the Hashimoto's world. But first, let's talk about autoimmunity and healing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, autoimmunity is very close to my heart too, because that was my, I guess, first fatigue crisis where I realized how my Hashimoto's was greatly affecting me. I was not, again, 21 years ago with my daughter's story, things haven't changed much. Women are still getting dismissed, gaslit, and I hate to use that word, but it's very true. And, women's health is being very much overlooked, and women are being underserved, underheard, and just dismissed. And so, again, I had her journey, I had my own personal journey, and so I got to see firsthand when we are able to give the body what it needs, though, when we truly have that support network, like you or myself helping, then the body will be able to recover and heal and repair on a cellular level, which then helps to reduce all of those symptoms, all those autoimmune symptoms that you have. And a lot of women have fatigue, pain, sleeplessness, all of that, sleep disorders, or disordered sleep is what I call it. And so the body does have the ability to do that. The problem is our current medical model of healthcare is so broken. We don't
Yes.
have a healthcare system. We have a disease management system.
Yep.
And for our communities, right, Esther, our women they're not taking that anymore. They're not taking that anymore. They want healing. They want remission. They want their Hashimoto's or autoimmune to be in remission, to go into remission, and to be able to live their life pain-free, with energy and restorative sleep and all of those things, lower your stress response, all of that. And it can be done because the body wants to do that for you. It wants to heal. It wants to recover. We just need to know what it is for you, because we're not one size fits all. We can't be.
Absolutely.
We are so brilliantly designed, and we're very individual, and God is a very personal God. And so I'm always bringing my clients back to talk to him, and what is he saying, and what does he say in his word, and how can we help your nervous system from a biblical perspective. And that's just one of the things that just automatically is coming up in conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So if somebody doesn't believe as you do, like somebody doesn't believe the Bible or love Jesus, what do you say to those clients? Because I know you have clients like that too.
For how they can heal.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll just I'll just say flat out, like, the body was designed to heal and recover. Plain and simple, it was. Everything's attached. We cannot compartmentalize, which is what they were doing with my daughter. They were just focusing on her head, her migraines, but we cannot compartmentalize because it's all connected. You know, the analogy of the body that Paul, I believe, uses in the Bible is applicable for believers and non-believers, because it just is. It just is. As we are all part of the body as believers, the body itself is all connected. You can't ignore other body systems and just focus on one. It doesn't
Yes.
work that way. You might get some improvement, but you're not going to get all over improvement. And this is why diets don't work, Esther, as you and I have talked about. Diets don't work because they are focusing on one thing and they're not focusing on the body as a whole. And so taking the body, mind, spirit approach, whether somebody is a believer or not, is really very important.
Absolutely. I totally agree because yeah, you can't divide it. You are one.
Yeah.
Whether or not you believe what the Bible says or you just look at science, because science is now showing that body, mind, and spirit, it's all
Yes.
connected. Absolutely. So
Yes.
let's talk about the high functioning fatigue that you have mentioned on your podcast. I have commented before on my podcast. It was one of the first things I noticed when I started talking to women with Hashimoto's is everybody is wearing like 75 different hats. Everybody is doing so many things. And yes, I know everybody is busy in general in our culture, but I felt like most of the women that I was talking to were even more so. They were in positions of leadership. They were in multiple different volunteer positions. It wasn't just like they were going and working and then, doing the standard busy. It was above and
Mhm.
beyond. So I really think that high functioning part applies to so many women with Hashimoto's. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, I agree. And because I was dealing with Hashimoto's while I was going through my fatigue crisis, one and two, and burnout, like I totally lived this firsthand. And so what I helped myself through, I now help my clients walk through in the midlife health makeover. And that's what we do, right? Because then we've lived it. We know we experienced it. So yeah, high functioning fatigue. It is exactly that. Women are pushing through, getting things done. They are putting themselves on the back burner. So they're putting other people first consistently, their job, their career, their family, their service, all of that at the expense of their own health. And they just think that that's normal because they've done that for so long. The
Yes.
problem is when we are 40 and dare I say even 35, this starts to begin. Because here's the thing, we are 2/3 of the way sick before a diagnosis is even made. And you can look at your labs and you can see, okay, from a functional perspective, right? You're looking at that. I mean, you're seeing a trend of where your body's been crying out for help and it's been ignored or dismissed because it's in conventional ranges. But regardless, we are pushing through, we're getting things done, we're burning the midnight oil, we're doing things that are expected of us. We are saying yes when we should be saying no. We should be saying yes when we want to be, we're saying yes when we want to be saying no. So it's expectations that other people place on us, but then we also place on ourselves.
Yeah.
We lie to ourselves all the time, like I'll rest when I'll rest when. We talk to ourselves with such a negative, just really a not nice tone of voice in our mind. We would never talk to our daughters that way. We would never talk to our girlfriends or our sisters that way. But yet somehow it's okay because we've been doing this for our whole life, or it's gotten worse, or worse, it's been poured into us and we just kept up that commentary.
Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation, but stress, trauma, all of that contributes to high functioning fatigue because it's a buildup and it leads to burnout.
Yeah.
So, it's again wearing that smile on the outside while you're feeling like you're dying a little bit on the inside. And
Yeah.
and that was me because I was very much a people pleaser. I was a perfectionist. I had push through mindset and I had protection. So those are the four mindsets that I have found that women have that also are fighting high functioning fatigue. We've got this perfectionistic mindset where it has to be done a certain way and it has to be done with excellence. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but we got to tone it down, right? We got to bring that down a little bit. We've got the push through mindset where we're just constantly at our own expense pushing through. Doesn't matter, we'll rest later. We've got the protection where it's all us. It's all on us. We can't delegate because nobody can do it the way we do, you know? And we've got these mindsets that are just keeping us in bondage, really. Really, that's what
Right.
it is. It's keeping us in bondage and not living in the good health that God has designed for us.
Right. Somebody's listening and they're like, that's me. What's their next
Yeah.
step?
Yeah. Well, the first step is recognizing it for sure. Yeah. You got to recognize it and you have to give yourself grace.
Yeah.
You really need to give yourself grace. I talk to my clients about grace and grit because give yourself grace, but then have the grit as well to come alongside and help yourself get through. Our body needs to feel safe and secure to heal and recover. It
Yes.
absolutely has to. And this is why we can't compartmentalize. So just tactically, very tangibly helping your body feel safe and secure it goes a long way to helping reduce the overwhelm and the fatigue and the stress symptoms that you're feeling that are impacting your daily life and your sleep, your digestion, all of that. So these four ways are restorative stretch, and that's just moving your body. You know, when we're struggling with chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue, Hashimoto's, whatever we're struggling with and we're in pain and we're exhausted, exercise is not necessarily your best friend. And
Right.
again, this is very individual. So I talk about restorative stretch while we are trying to help our body feel safe and secure. And then restorative breath, that deep breathing that so many women are neglectful. We shallow breathe all day long. And, I find myself doing that too when I'm like back to back to back to back meetings. It's like, okay, I need to break away and have a 5-minute reset and I'm just going to breathe.
Yeah.
And, outside, preferably, I love to be outside. That is going to help bring your body back into balance, help calm your nervous system a lot. And then those restorative thoughts, really framing, and it's so much more than reframing, but it's taking that Romans 12:2, that biblical mindset around your thoughts. You are renewing your mind. When a negative thought comes in, like, what does God say? Did God really say that? Because the enemy will put words into our mind, voices, like, right? Is it our mind? Is it our thought? Is it the enemy? Is that the Lord? We need to restore our thoughts and getting back into the word or back into something that we've heard helps us to calm the noise in our mind too. And then, of course, there's restorative nutrition, eating well. And I know you talk about that a lot because it's very critical in helping the body to feel safe and secure as well.
Right. Yes. Oh, all four of those. Absolutely. 100% agree. On the way to school, so two of my kids go to a local charter school. One's graduated and the other's homeschooled. But on the way to town every morning, so I can drop them off at the bus, they do sound tracks. And so that's from John Acuff, and he wrote a book where you turn down the noise on the negative things that you talk to yourself about. And then you turn up the new soundtracks and you replace those because you can choose what you're going to focus on. And so every morning I've got a list, and a lot of the new soundtracks that we have on this list, they're accompanied by a Bible verse, because there's so much truth in the Bible. And I want the kids to know that, um, yes, we can have mantras, we can have sayings that we tell ourselves, but we want them rooted in truth. And I love that concept for women who are struggling, with their self-talk, because we all do. Especially like you said, we're perfectionists. We want everything to be like done right, done well, done quickly. That triangle of things that you can do. You can have it fast, you can have it well, well done and cheap. Like we want the full triangle and in
Right.
everything we do. And you can't. We're human. Like if we're going to do it really well, it might not be really fast. And that doesn't mean we failed. Like,
That's true.
yes. Yeah. So many things I love about those four different things that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, okay. So somebody heard themselves in your description of the high functioning fatigue, and now they've got the four things to do: the breathing, the stretching, the self talk, and the nutrition. Um, if they can pick one thing for this week to focus on, because you can't like implement, four things all at once.
Mhm.
Like, where are they going to start today? And then they can obviously come back to the podcast. They can listen to this episode. They can read the blog post, and they can come back and implement the next thing. But for today, where's the most impactful thing to start with?
I would say restorative thoughts. Absolutely. Because the women that I work with in the midlife health makeover are generally between 40 and 65 years of age. So that's a lifetime of negative thoughts, self-talk, treating ourselves poorly mentally and physically, emotionally. And so we want to restore our thoughts. We want to shift our mindset to that stronger mindset instead of the weaker mindset, because then once we feel strong, it's like we need to be bold. We need to put on our boldness, right? And like, no, this is not. And as a believer, ask, did God really say that? Because chances are he didn't. If it's a negative thought, if it causes you stress and anxiety, if it makes you feel bad or shameful or doubtful, whatever, that is not of the Lord. Plain and simple, it's just not. And believe it or not, that is not of the Lord ever. He convicts, he does not condemn. And so I would say, let's start with restorative thoughts and let this practice of every morning as you get out of bed, you're just giving gratitude. Again, whatever is coming to your mind at that moment that your body needs, because a lot of this is intuitive. What do I need? Because if you're not talking nice to yourself, you know this. You know this. I said, you dummy, the other day to myself, and I'm like, no, stop. Just stop. And I
You
was,
are not a dummy.
I know, I was kind of joking, like, it was like, oh, I could have had a V8 moment. But it's just even those little simple, silly things make a difference. What is it, Esther? They used to say for every one negative comment you say, you need to say five more to negate that one.
Yeah. Yep. I've even heard 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It's so pivotal. It's so powerful. And here's the other thing about the whole nutrition and the breathing and the stretching and the hydration and all of the what I call seven essentials for optimal health. Once our mindset, when we feel calmer, the rest is easier to implement.
Yes.
Because if our mind is a jumble, like I call it a squirrel's nest of anxiety and stress, it's so much harder to follow that plan or follow that whatever that goal that we've set. So I would say restorative thoughts.
Right. And I love how, you're starting with your thoughts, but that's directly impacting everything. So if somebody wants better physical health and they're still, they're trying to bring it all together and recognize body, mind, spirit, um,
Mhm.
but you said it's going to help the physical health too. So yes, it's in your head, it's in your mind, you're thinking those thoughts, but it's absolutely impacting your physical health as well as everything else. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. So tell the listeners where they can find you and connect and learn more if they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. The best thing to do is follow the podcast, Treasured Wellness podcast. And that would be easier. It's wherever you listen to podcasts. And then you can also check out the website, treasuredwellness.com. But yeah, come over and hang out with the Treasured Wellness family community and join us on the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. And now the disclaimer. So, obviously, the podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Please discuss any questions or concerns with your healthcare professional. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. And I don't think we mentioned any products, but if we did, no products mentioned are intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. All right. I'll see you next week on the Health with Hashimoto's podcast.
Thank you.